Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Jai Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajakacharya Ashtottara Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajakacharya Ashtottara Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. So we'll be reading from page 480 tonight. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 4th day of September 2024 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 11, the universal form. We read a good part of the chapter yesterday. And we're going to start on page 480 with text number 33. Okay. Tasmat Tvam Uttishta Yasho Labasva Jitva Shatrun Bhunksva Rajyam Samriddham Mayavaite Nihita Yatha Purvam Eva Nimittamatram Bhavasabhyasachin Tasmatvam Uttishta Yasho Labasva Jitva Shatrun Bhunksha Rajyam Samriddham Maya Vaite Nihita Purvameva Nimitta Matram Bhavasabhyasachin Tasmatvam Uttishta Yasho Labasva Jitva Shatrun Bhunksvarajam Samriddham Maya Vaite Nihita Purvameva Nimitta Matram Bhavasabhyasachin Tasmatvam Uttishta Yasho Labasva Jitva Shatrun Bhunksvarajam Samriddham Maya Vaite Nihita Purvameva Nimitta Matram Bhavasabhyasachin. Go ahead. Tasmatvam Uttishta Yasho Labasva Jitva Shatrun Bhunksvarajam Samriddham Maya Vaite Nihita Purvameva Nimitta Matram Bhavasabhyasachin. Want to try? Tasmatvam Uttishta Yasho Labasva Jitva Shatrun Bhunksvarajam Samriddham Maya Vaite Nihita Purvameva Maya Vaite Nihita Purvameva Nimitta Matram Bhavasabhyasachin. Anyone else on this side? You don't have to do it. How about on this side? Tasmatvam Uttishta Yasho Labasva Jitva Shatrun Bhunksvarajam Samriddham Maya Vaite Nihita Purvameva Nimitta Matram Bhavasabhyasachin. Okay, now. Okay, go ahead. Tasmatvam Uttishta Yasho Labasva Jitva Shatrun Bhunksvarajam Samriddham Maya Vaite Nihita Purvameva Nimitta Matram Bhavasabhyasachin. Anyone online?
Tasmattam uttishta jasho labhasya
Tasmatam uttishta yasho labhasva
jitva shatrun bhukshva rajam samriddham
Jitva shatrun bhunksha rajam samriddham
Mai vaite nihita purvam eva
Maya vaite nihita purvameva
nimitta matram bhava shuddha sachin.
Nimitta matram bhavasabhya sachin. Okay, so I'll read the word by word. Tasmat, therefore, tvam you uttishta, get up. Yashaha, fame, labhasva, gain, jitva, conquering, shatrun, enemies, bhunksva, enjoy, rajyam, a kingdom, samriddham, flourishing, maya, by me, eva, certainly, ete, all these nihita, killed, purvam eva, by previous arrangement, nimitta matram, just the cause, bhava, become, sabhyasachin, O Sabhyasachi. Translation, Lord Krishna is speaking to Arjuna. Actually, the universal form is speaking to Arjuna. Therefore get up, prepare to fight and win glory, conquer your enemies and enjoy a flourishing kingdom. They are already put to death by my arrangement, and you, O Sabhyasachi, can be but an instrument in the fight. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Sabhyasachin refers to one who can shoot arrows very expertly in the field. Thus Arjuna is addressed as an expert warrior capable of delivering arrows to kill his enemies. Quote, just become an instrument. Quote, nimitta matram. The word is also very significant. This word is also very significant. The whole world is moving according to the plan of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Foolish persons who do not have sufficient knowledge think that nature is moving without a plan and all manifestations are but accidental formations. There are many so-called scientists who suggest that perhaps it was like this or maybe like this, but there is no question of perhaps and maybe. There is a specific plan being carried out in this material world. What is this plan? This cosmic manifestation is a chance for the conditioned souls to go back to Godhead, back to home. As long as they have the domineering mentality, which makes them try to lord it over material nature, they are conditioned. But anyone who can understand the plan of the Supreme Lord and cultivate Krishna consciousness is most intelligent. The creation and destruction of the cosmic manifestation are under the superior guidance of God. Thus the battle of Kurukshetra was fought according to the plan of God. Arjuna was refusing to fight, but he was told that he should fight in accordance with the desire of the Supreme Lord. Then he would be happy. If one is in full Krishna consciousness and his life is devoted to the Lord's transcendental service, he is perfect. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Salakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance to him and all members of Sri Parampara. So we're going to have a little time out here as I move a little bit to my right, because we have to line up with that camera. Okay, so just to give some context here, this is the universal form, and at the beginning of this chapter, Arjuna requests Krishna to show his universal form. Now what is that universal form? The universal form is a form, as it says, sort of that in which you can see God within everything in the universe. And he gives Arjuna a special vision so that he can see this form. Arjuna requests to see it. Now it's made very clear at the purports at the beginning, which we read yesterday, that Arjuna didn't really have any ardent desire to see it, but he asked for one specific reason, because he knew that as the Kali Yuga progresses, there'll be various fools and rascals who are trying to imitate God, claiming they are God. We've already had people come to America, I remember in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, who said, yes, Bhagavan. I'm not going to name any of the other Bhagavans. And people were so foolish they accepted. Then they would give, service, and they would give money, and it was just a big scam. So the point is that this universal form that Krishna shows is he has eyes everywhere, and ultimately he's very he's crushing the enemy within his teeth. And Arjuna is giving his glorification, but ultimately, I think in the next few verses, he becomes afraid. And then, please show me your original form again, the one I like, Krishna. But the point is that if someone claims to be God or an incarnation of God, then you can ask him, "Can you please show me a universal form?" And I guarantee they won't be able to do it. So this is explained that it's kind of a fail-safe system. But beyond that, the previous verse, which is text 32, is perhaps the most famous verse because, just to recount this again, maybe you've heard of Oppenheimer, right? He became famous from that movie. He was the main scientist in building the atom bomb back in 1944, or whatever it was. And believe it or not, he was a student of the Bhagavad Gita. He fancied himself such, and he would read the Bhagavad Gita. So when the first bomb blew up, the very first bomb, Alamogordo, 1945, New Mexico, of course they were all watching, they were in their bunkers, and I read this was like hair-raising. They thought there was a chance that it would blow up the whole world. But anyway, we better try it anyway, we got to win the war. So it was a big explosion, you've seen pictures, I'm sure, And he quoted this verse, the previous verse from the Bhagavad Gita, when he saw that. Oppenheimer, this Westerner, he was a student of it. So the verse is, I'll read the Sanskrit. The Sanskrit is very nice. But he said, the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Personality, time I am. Arjuna, who are you? O Lord of Lords, so fierce of form, please tell me who you are. Previous verse 31. I offer my obeisance unto you. Please be gracious to me. You are the primal Lord. I want to know about you, for I do not know what your mission is. So he's not speaking to his friend Krishna here. This is like, please let me know everything is okay. So he says, time I am, time, the great destroyer of the worlds, and I have come here to destroy all people. With the exception of you, the Pandavas, all the soldiers here on both sides will be slain. See? So then he says, therefore, right, tasmat, the next verse that we read today. Therefore, get up. In other words, there's no point in you going off to becoming a beggar to save your teacher, Dronacharya, and your beloved grandfather figure, Bhishma Dev, and all the other relatives. Everybody's going to die anyway. You're not going to. But you're leaving the battlefield. You will lose your reputation, and you will be going against my desires. And so, so the point is, there's no point in you not fighting. Get up and fight. Win glory. Conquer your enemies and enjoy a flourishing kingdom. They are already put to death by my arrangement, and you, O Sabyasachi, can be but an instrument in the fight. That's what this nimitta matram just becomes my instrument. And that's the ideal for every living entity in this world. We are trying to become instruments of Krishna's will, which means servants. That's a service. And the result of that, the first result is a sense of liberation. Liberation is the first benefit of Krishna consciousness. It's not the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is pure love of God. To be situated in a state, even in this world, where you're always blissful, you're confident of eternal life, you're doing the work of the Lord, and your life is full of meeting and serving Vaishnavas and getting together, glorifying the Lord, and it's just happiness. Lord Chaitanya showed that in his own life, and he showed how everyone can enter into that consciousness by the process mainly of chanting this Hare Krishna mantra. In this age, it's been made easier. See, I like to point out how fortunate we are, How often does Krishna come to this world, to this material world and this earthly planet? Does anyone remember? Once in a day of Brahma. Very long time. Brahma lives an incredibly long time. 311 trillion, 40 billion years. And which breaks down to his day, his 24 hours is 8 trillion, 640 billion years. So every 8 trillion, 640 billion years, Krishna comes to this planet and he reenacts. He has a little replica of Goloka in Vrindavan in India. And he enacts his pastimes there. He shows his all attractive baby pastimes, and then with his friends he goes out, and with the gopis he meets them and all. And this is wonderful because we conditioned souls have been cycling in birth and death for who knows how long. If we're open to it, we can hear those because they're written down in books, and we can become attracted to those pastimes because that's our natural state of mind. See, this is the whole thing, that material life, as we know it, first of all, it's very temporary. You're not always aware of that because, oh yeah, I'm 21 years old. I like to point out, I tell these stories again and again, but many of you haven't heard them. I've spent 6 years in Miami working on Prabhupada's books. And it wasn't just in Miami Beach. I could see the ocean out of my window. We were the devotees were able to buy a hotel there, you know. And so I was on the 4th floor, and I was right there. And so it's also, if you know Miami Beach, it's a big retirement area where a lot of wealthy people come down, especially from New York. It's kind of traditional. And there's a lot of hotels on the beach. So they told me that the city had spent several $1 million to build a nice boardwalk shortly before I arrived, you know, where people could walk and just near the ocean. So it's also a vacation place for Brazilians who come up during their winter, and it's warmer, of course, in Miami. And so I remember looking out there, and there was a bunch of young guys and girls who were of the wealthy upper crust of Brazil. They could afford to come up, and you know, and they had erected a volleyball net on the beach, and they were playing volleyball. You know, and then just like 20 feet to the left, you saw the 70 and 80-year-olds, you know, taking their walk on the boardwalk. You know, and I know from mentality that you think when you're like 18 years old, 17, 19, 20, you know, that oh, I'm young. That's my constitutional position. And there's old people. There's also old people. Well, too bad for them, you know. But I'm young. I'll never be like that. I mean, you know, logically you will, but you don't live like that, right? You just get into it. And so they're seeing these people walk and say, oh, I'm glad I'm not like that, you know. And the old people are saying, oh, wait till you get a little older. You'll get, you know. So Krishna consciousness is supposed to wake you up. You see, Krishna in a few chapters, in the 13th chapter, there's a wonderful list of about 20 elements of knowledge, Krishna in the 13th chapter. And one of them is Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi Dukkha Doshana Darshanam, which means, yes, and Dukkha Doshana Darshanam, one should be aware, should not let that get too far in your subconscious of the miseries of birth, old age, disease, and death. With them, everyone faces that. We forget the trauma of birth. I mean, if we remembered, we'd probably have massive case of PTSD. You know, packed up, you know, for 8, 9 months in there, you know, and finally coming out and, you know, and crying, who's this, you know. Can you imagine, you know? And so that's traumatic. And then even before you hit old age, disease, and death, there's so many dangers that can take place. You know, the other thing you should be aware of is the threefold miseries. We all know what they are, maybe not by that name. But for instance, the natural disturbances, so prominent. Every day you read, oh my God, there's more fires burning in Canada. I remember last year, all the smoke was so heavy, it was coming down into New York. They had the worst, for one day, the worst air quality in the whole world was in New York City. I used to live there, you know. And then we have the fires up here in Northern California, you know, and the heat. You know, I mean, this is kind of a special place. You know, it's not too hot here. It's going to be, 80 degrees tomorrow, big deal. It was, for 100 days straight, it was over 100 degrees in Phoenix this summer. Just imagine. You know. But so that's Adi Daivik. You have the earthquakes. I remember when I was in Miami, it was always the hurricanes. You know, you always had this season, July, August, September, it was hurricane season. And you always have to watch the weather, you know, is something boiling up in Caribbean and ready to hit us, you know. While I was there, we didn't have any direct hits. But there's always that danger. Well, when I came here in '89, I read up on it. Okay, we got the San Andreas Fault. I just wonder how far that is how far is that from me? And I looked at the map and said, okay, great. It's a little bit east when it gets down here, you know. But that can happen at any moment, right? We had an earthquake here. I was here. I don't think anyone was. It's right here, I know. But I remember I was chanting upstairs We used to have the guest shop upstairs, and you could go up there and chant your rounds, you know, in the early morning. I was chanting, and suddenly everything's swaying, you know. Uh-oh, it's an earthquake. I ran down here, but being in Maya, I didn't run toward the deities to see if I could help. No. I just looked at we had a different set of chandeliers, but they were going crazy, you know. I ran out onto the sidewalk, and the sidewalk was also going like it was like a surfboard, you know. Luckily, it's calmed down in a couple of minutes. There was no but it just gives you a sense how helpless you are. You know, this is adi-daivik miseries. They're caused by higher powers. Then there's, we all know, adi-bhautic miseries. Miseries caused by other living beings, oftentimes other human beings. But Prabhupada would give the example of the bed bugs. He must have, you know, had those in India a little bit, you know. I mean, there's always someone or something, you know, that's threatening, you know. And then there's adhyatmic. Nobody's threatening, there's no earthquake and everything, but your own mind is disturbed. You know, you're carrying around your worst enemy, you know, as it says in the Gita. Or your own body. My friend, he's a little older than me, he's complaining, oh, I got this pain in my knee now, you know, I can hardly walk, he had to go to the doctor, he couldn't find it. I called up the doctor, yes, you can have an appointment, I think in 6 weeks I'll be free. Oh, come on, I'm in such pain, you know. So that's what it is, especially when you get older, you know. So that's material life. And the whole point is that nature is telling us, but we have to have knowledge like this, this isn't natural. You yourself are pure consciousness. That's the first lesson of the Bhagavad Gita, right? Dehinosmin. Dehinosmin is the dweller in the body, the soul, the Atma, the pure consciousness, never gets old, never dies, never is born, and is constitutionally just like the Lord, part and parcel. Krishna says, Mama Evangsha Jiva Loka Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. That all these living entities are Angsha. Angsha means a little particle. Just like a sun ray has a little bit of light, a little bit of heat. You take a drop from the ocean, or a little thimbleful, it's got the same chemicals, a little salty, right? It's got the same qualities, but way smaller in quantity. So we have Krishna's qualities in minute degree. But because we're infinitesimal, very, very small, we can be overwhelmed by the material energy, and we can forget our spiritual identity. And then we're given a body. Now we're all fortunate, we have human bodies. Human body is very rare and very important to utilize properly. Otherwise, if we act like animals, we can become animals again. We all come through. Everyone comes to human body eventually. There's no eternal damnation, no matter how bad you are. It can be a long time suffering, but you come back up. So then there's the question, what to do in this human life? And this is what we're supposed to do. Learn about who we are and how to act in such a way that we can revive our original spiritual nature, go back to Godhead and never come back here again, which is a big mistake. So here, Krishna's desire, from the beginning of this book, the whole point is that Arjuna was put into Maya. He's an eternal associate of Krishna. So he was put into illusion by Krishna so the Bhagavad Gita could be spoken. And he has all these arguments in the beginning of at the end of the first chapter, beginning of the second chapter, why he doesn't want to fight. Mainly because on both sides, not just my side, but both sides, there are people who I revere and people who I love and I have relationships. So what's the point? If I fight and win this battle and I have the kingdom, everything I have, the spoils of war, will be soaked with the blood of the people I love. I'd rather go off into the forest and just beg, you know. But he's not suited for that. And he knows that Krishna doesn't want him to do that. So he's torn and he's paralyzed and he sits down on a chariot, drops his bow, and then he says, Govinda, I shall not fight. But then he makes a very important decision. Because the relationship between him and Krishna on most level is like a friend to friend. He knows he's God, but still he's friendly. So then he says, okay, that's not working. So he says, Karpanidosho Bhata Sabhava Prichamitam Dharma Samuda Cheta. Dharma. I'm bewildered about what's the right thing to do. Dharma is very important in Vedic culture, right? Because if you're adharmic, then you can suffer sinful reactions. You want to do the right thing. So he said, I'm not sure what's the right thing to do. I had all these reasons not to fight, but I know you want me to fight, so now I'm accepting you as my guru. It's a different relationship. So he says, Yakshreya ksyanishtitam bruhitanme. Please tell me for certain how I can achieve Shreya, the ultimate good for myself and everyone else. Very important word, Shreya. Shishyasteham, I am your disciple now, please instruct, and the soul surrendered to you, please instruct me. So that's, he's telling us, this, we have to do that also. We have to admit, this is like the first step, to be very humble and understand we don't really know what to do for our ultimate benefit. We may have an idea how we can make money and do this, or even act very piously and go to heaven, whatever. But heaven is also temporary, material heaven. It may be, you may live a long, long time there and enjoy like anything, but ultimately, these immortal words, Chine punye matya lokam vishanti. It's like, punya is like a credit. It's good, it's something you do good. You help others, you're kind, like that, And there's all kinds of formulas in the Vedic culture. And if you die, you have all those credits, you can go to heaven, Indra Loka, or Surya Loka, or some other Loka, higher Loka. And you can live a long, long time, and you can enjoy much more than down here. But then Krishna says in the 7th chapter, I believe, 9th chapter, Chine punye matya lokam vishanti. When your pious credits are used up, it's like a credit card, you give them the credit card. Oh, Mr. Smith, I'm sorry, this one isn't any good. Can you have another credit card? So you don't have another pious credit card. You have to come back. Chine punye martya lokam vishanti. You come back to this world of death, martya, mortal. You see how the Sanskrit language is the origin of martya. So what's the point? You had so many sacrifices, prayers, and you did this, did that. You went to heaven, but then you came back here. You start over again. You haven't really made any progress toward ultimate good, going back to Godhead, where you don't take birth again. So Arjuna prays, please tell me what my duty is and how I can achieve the goal. And then he starts speaking. The first thing, he chastises him. He said, "What are you lamenting for all of the, the death of your friends and your guru and everything? Yes, but they're going to die anyway. In fact, they're going to die on this battlefield, and that's what he's showing in this 11th chapter. They're already killed by me. So you can keep your honor and you can get the kingdom and do the right thing, and by fighting, even though it may be painful on one side. But no, nobody dies." I made up a little ditty. It's based on Bhagavad Gita. Every body dies. Okay, every single body dies. Everybody dies, nobody dies. Wake up and open your eyes. You're not that body, you're a pure spirit soul. Chant the holy name and attain life's goal. I see, it's good you have a beat bag, right? So do you. So that's basically the Hare Krishna movement in a nutshell. Understand that you're pure spirit. Take this gift of the holy name. This is a great verse. I got to share this. No, you haven't heard this in a class before. Probably. Lord Chaitanya, he's Krishna. He came only 540 years ago, okay? And he came for 2 reasons. He came for his own personal reason, and he came to save us, to save everybody, to give these Kali Yugites a method of purification and achieving perfection in life that's actually suited to them, that they can perform. It doesn't involve, like Krishna describes, going off the forest somewhere and sitting like this and controlling the mind, breathing, you can do that in the yoga studio. But you're not going to get perfection that way. Very difficult for us to make this successful. There's some people who can do that, but not mass. So Lord Chaitanya gave a way for everybody to do it. Doesn't matter your age, your place in society, whether you're a Brahmin or a Shudra, a Chandala, whatever it may be. You see? Gender, no. If you just take up the process with faith and you follow it, you'll make tremendous advancement. And the wonderful thing about it is that even if you don't go get perfection in this lifetime, whatever you do get is carried to the next life. Nothing like that in the material sphere. Whether you're Bezos with your 100 billion or whatever he's got, or some poor guy on the street here. I take a walk. I walk I make friends. He gives me a Hare Krishna. Then he even gives me a gift, but I can't use them. He gives me a what do they call those little cookies, fortune cookies or something, So thank you, then I throw it away. But but he's got the right spirit, So it doesn't matter. He's going to pass away like we all are and lose everything. Everything material stays, but you carry with you your spiritual advancement, your credits. So we should try to make as much as possible and even go back to Godhead if we can. So Krishna is saying, to bring it back to this, so there's no reason for you not to fight. You should therefore get up, uttishta. He's sitting there, and regain your fame. You see, get your fame by fighting. Jitva means to fight against the enemy, shatrum, and enjoy the kingdom. After all, Krishna's in charge, and Arjuna's a great fighter, so they'll get the kingdom. And maya vaite nihita purvameva. They've already been killed by me before. You know, the arrangement is there. You saw it, you know. So just be my agent, nimitta matram bhavasavya. And that last line is very, because that's what we can do also. In other words, what does Krishna want us to do? Well, we can learn that from the Shastra and from the Guru, you know. And it's simple. I'll chant Hare Krishna, and that's the first thing. And then how? Okay, chant in this way, you know, make it systematic. And then there's what's not to do. This is the important thing. What you have to give up. There's the rules, and then there's the regulations. The rules are what to do, the regulations are what not to do. So if you're serious, then you make an effort to do that. You may have to pray. The prayer, the chanting is a prayer, actually. Please give me the strength to do what I know is right thing to do, and to not be able to give up what is not right. So that's all here. And Krishna is speaking now, and he's going to say Dronam to Bhishma in the next one. They're all dead already, you know. But there's no point in you trying to save them. And then so Arjuna then offers these prayers, and as I pointed out yesterday, there's one of these was one of the first verses I ever memorized, text 38. We're coming up on it. All right, any discussion on these few points just to bring you up to speed? Uttishtata. Yes, Prabhu. Okay, because they have an audience out there on YouTube.
It's not so much related, but you said that Krishna comes once a day of Brahma. So how often does Chaitanya come?
Right after him. He comes the following Kali Yuga.
Also every day?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I mean so that's like, whoa, talk about winning the lottery. You know, it's been like yesterday compared to 8,400,000,000. And not only that, but you know, we have the society, but Prabhupada's incredible surrender and mercy, you know, and heroism that through great effort, he built up the society. So you have the books, we have the deities, you know, the prasadam, you have the association. You should take advantage of it. I love this verse. This is like a key verse. There's several like this. One is, once I gave a class, a Sunday class on boats. There's various boats that you can cross over the ocean of birth and death. So the first one is spoken by Krishna. And he says, Nirdeha madhyam sulabham sudurlabham plavam sukalpam gurukarnadaram mayanukulena nabasviteritam puman bababdim natadetsa atmaha. Nir is short for Nara. Nara means human being. And Deha is body. The human body is itself a boat that's nicely built in order to go across this ocean of birth and death. Adyam means it has all these facilities, mainly the intelligence. And then there's a play on words. He uses two words that mean the opposite thing. Sulabham, sudurlabham. So sulabham means very, very easy to get, and sudurlabham means very difficult to get. Well, how can it be both? Well, it's easy to get because everyone automatically gets it. In other words, eventually everyone comes to human form. But just imagine how few of this are. Oh boy, 8 billion. I think they crossed the 8 billion mark, right? When I was growing up, it was like 3 billion, 4 billion. Oh my God, 5, and now it's 8 billion. But compared to the number of ants in Pacific Beach, there's probably 8 billion ants in and that's just the ants. Then there's the mosquitoes so we're rare, even on this earth. So. Plava means boat. So the human form of body is nicely boat. Why? You have the intelligence, you have the ears, you have the voice, the tongue, you can chant. Sulabham, plavam, sukalpam. Now you need a captain of the ship. It's a sailboat. It's one of these sailboats from the 1890s or something. So who's the captain? The guru, the qualified guru, leader. Someone who you can give instruction, who you have faith in, like that. And then you need favorable winds. So Krishna says, Mayanukulena, about the Shastra that I'm speaking. This is all favorable winds. We're hearing Krishna's words. That's also, So you have the boat, you have the captain, you have the favorable winds. Pumam bhavabdim nataret sa'atmaha. That human being who doesn't cross over this bhavabdim, the ocean of birth and death, is committing spiritual suicide. You've got all the advantages. All you have to do is employ him. So that's the first boat. Then the next boat is even more famous verse, and the boat of the lotus feet of Krishna. Samashitahe padapallavaplavam mahatpadam punyasho morare pavambude vatsapadam padam 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 yadvipadam natesham. You have to be deaf not to hear the poetry in that verse. So, Samashrita, full shelter, one who takes full shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna. Padapallavaplavam means his lotus feet. Mahatpadam. Mahatpadam means two things. All the Mahatmas, the great souls, are situated at those lotus feet serving Krishna. And it's also the place, where all the universe rests, the Mahatattva, Mahatpadam. Punya Yasho means Murari. Murari is the name for Krishna, meaning the enemy of the Mura demon. He killed his whole pastime like that. Punya Yasho means you just chant his glories or you hear his glories and you acquire piety. Punya Yasho, so auspicious, Bhavambudim, Bhavambudim is the ocean of birth and death, shrinks down. It's an ocean, but it shrinks down to the amount of water that's held not in a cow's footprint, but in a calf's footprint. So it's even easier to cross over. So the paradox is, as soon as you get on that boat, you don't need the boat anymore because the ocean just shrinks down to a little thimbleful of water. So you walk across. In other words, it's such an efficient boat if you can just hang on to those lotus feet, Bhavamude, now here's Vatsapadam, the calf footprint. Parampadam, Parampadam means you go to the supreme abode. Padam padam not vipadam natesham. Not for them who have taken shelter of Krishna and they're on the boat back to Godhead, is this world where there is danger at every step. Padam padam vipadam natesham. Natesham, not for them. So that's the second boat. And then fairly recently I discovered a third boat. This is a really nice boat too. Sangsara sindhum ati dustanamurti tirshor nanak plavo bhagavatak purushottamasya lila katarvasanishevanamantarena pungso bhaved vivadaduka davaritasya. So what he says there is samsara sindhum. He said the ocean of samsara, that's birth, old age, disease, and death. We're all like drowning in that ocean. Ati dustaram. Ati dustaram means difficult to cross over. But one who is really eager to cross over it, utti tirshor. Nanyak plavo, there's only this one boat, because the other boats are also valid, but here is this very important boat. Nanyak Bhagavatak Purushottamasya Lilakatavasani means cultivating the taste for hearing about the activities and pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That absorption, we're coming up on Radhastami. Try to attend. That's in the 11th. That's next one, a week away, and that's one of the sweetest holidays. Normally we say, okay, we don't want to just hear about Radha. That's a little bit too, the Radha. Yeah, but that day you can hear as much as you want. So it's like I didn't write a poem. I put an existing poem in the Govinda Lilamrita into English, and hopefully I'll be able to. I have a slideshow that goes with it. So the first verse goes like this. Sanskrit, the meat is very sweet. Kunkamakta kanchanabja gavahari gorabha pitananchi tabda ganda kirti nindi sodabha ballavesha suna sava vanchi tarti sarika maya matra pada padma dasa dastu radhika. The last line repeats it. Her gold complexion steals the pride of golden lotus tinged with red. Her fragrance mocks the scent of lotus bloom with saffron powder spread. Her skill in satisfying Shri Hari is perfect and complete. May Radhika bestow on me the service of her lotus feet. So you only get one verse today, but if you come in a week, you get the whole thing and the slideshow. In fact, it's in my poetry file. If anyone wants to, I wrote a bunch of poems. I put them into a PDF file. And if you want it, send me an email. But you have to remember the email address. Dravida. Dravida. And once you get that, you got the whole thing. Because the next is number 108 at Gmail. Dravida 108. You know it, or you can get it. You can give it to him. Yeah, and then it's in there, and with a whole bunch of other poems. So there's, because, there's all this Sanskrit. I mean, you can hear, I've memorized the Sanskrit. And it's really great if you memorize, then you know the meaning, But most devotees, they don't know the meaning. So they just have to wait till I stop and explain what it means. So I figured, well, at least we'll get some kind of poem, going, so that there's this favorite, Sweet, sweet is my dear Lord's form, sweet is still his face so fair, but his honey-scented gentle smile is sweet beyond compare. Maduram, Sanskrit. Maduram, maduram, babadasya vibho, maduram, maduram, vadanam, maduram. Madugam nimnadu smita metadaho. Maduram, 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 maduram. That's from the Krishna Karnamrita. This is an amazing book, because the author, he's writing this maybe on his way to Vrindavan or anywhere, but he's writing it, and he's blind actually, he can't see physically, but he sees in the spiritual vision, and he sees Krishna. So, and he's composing these verses and chanting them, and so he titled his book Krishna Karnamrita. This book is nectar for Krishna's ears. Now that's a pretty bold thing to say, about any book. Maybe you hope it's nectar for... No, but he was seeing Krishna relish it as he was composing it. It's an amazing book. I think, and there's another one I put into poem, but anyway, it's getting late. All right, so we read 33? Okay, so let's do 34. Dronam cha bhishmam cha jayadratang cha Karnam tatanyam api yodhad viran Maya hatang tvam jahima vyatishta Yudyasvajeta sivane sapatnan. So this is the universal form continuing to speak to Arjuna. Drona, Bhishma, Jayadratha, Karna, and the other great warriors have already been destroyed by me. Therefore kill them and do not be disturbed. Simply fight and you will vanquish your enemies in battle. Purport. Every plan is made by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he is so kind and merciful to his devotees that he wants to give the credit to his devotees who carry out his plan according to his desire. Life should therefore move in such a way that everyone acts in Krishna consciousness and understands the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the medium of a spiritual master. The plans of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are understood by his mercy, and the plans of the devotees are as good as his plans. One should follow such plans and be victorious in the struggle for existence. So, Prabhupada came to America. Nobody knew anything about anything, But he had the assignment from his spiritual master to spread the science of Krishna consciousness abroad, and especially in the English language. That was the main thing. So some of his godbrothers had tried. They went to England, and they stayed, I don't know how long they stayed, maybe a year max. But they didn't really make much progress. They went for the hoi polloi, they tried to meet, and they did, lords and ladies and things like that, And I don't know, maybe they made one or two actual disciples, So it was basically a failure. But a lot of money was put behind it. I mean, they gave them all backing and everything. A book was written especially for this in English by this Dr. Sanyal. It was about Lord Chaitanya. Anyway, they came back. And but Bhaktisiddhanta definitely still wanted it to happen. And when he first met Prabhupada, when Prabhupada was a young man, Prabhupada wasn't expecting to surrender and do anything. Like he was married, he had like a few kids already, and he was had a business going on. But he had been born in a Vaishnava family, so his friend had to actually really argue with him. It's a famous argument they had on the street. Because Prabhupada had seen his father was very pious, very pure devotee, and anybody dressed as a sannyasi came to the door, he would invite him in and bow down and serve him and give him something to eat like that. But Prabhupada had seen these sannyasis and he didn't have much faith in them. One time he saw someone, he was just dressing up as a sannyasi in the morning and go out and beg, but he really. So he was he didn't want to go see. But his friend said, no, this person is different, you know. So finally Prabhupada agreed, thank God. And we wouldn't be here. And so then he went up to see him, and he was very impressed, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. So Prabhupada describes it, that of course they bowed down, and as they're getting up, they hadn't even seated down, he was already telling them, you're a young man and intelligent. He could see that they were educated, you know. You should preach your Lord Chaitanya's mission all over the world. What? You haven't even met yet. And so Prabhupada, he was a follower of Gandhi at that time. You know, that was the time when they were working for liberation. And he said, what do people think of us, you know, if we go abroad, you know, we don't even have independence. So Bhakti said, it doesn't matter. You can't wait. It's so urgent that, you know, have to. So then Prabhupada eventually became initiated, and his spiritual master, you know, further encouraged him to do that. Actually, there was one final letter that Prabhupada wrote. His spiritual master was about to pass away. And it was in December of 35, I believe. And Prabhupada said, you know, I'm a householder and I do what I can, but I can't do as much as your sannyasi disciples. You know, what should I do? So he wrote him back, I think the last letter that he wrote him. And he said, yes, you should preach in English and go abroad, you know, like that. He gave him the same instruction, you know. And that was, and then there's the other famous instruction, if you ever get money, print books. That was another thing. Now Prabhupada hardly had any money, you know. He was able to scrape up enough in 4 years to print the first canto, the 3 volumes of the Bhagavatam, and in English. And with that, you know, he felt he had some ammunition, you know, and he was ready to come, and he came. And it was an amazing story. You know, it's $7 to his name, really didn't know anybody here, had no idea what he would encounter when he came to America, you know. But it was the order, so there he was, 69 years old, and, you know, not in the greatest health, obviously, and had 2 heart attacks on the way over. So, you know, first year, not much happened. He was uptown, and then he came down. I lived there where Prabhupada, you know, were roaming. 2 years later, I was 2 years late. I wasn't, which is probably good, because I wouldn't have been able to start my career as an editor and proofreader the whole time since '73. I've been working on the magazine and the books. Lucky. Very, very fortunate. Anyway, so but then, you know, he found some eager listeners, people who were willing to chant and to hear him speak, and it caught on. You know, it caught on because it's a real thing. You know, if you really try chanting, you feel it. You know, what's this feeling I'm having? And Prabhupada explained. So then eventually he got this Bhagavad Gita published, which was a big deal in 1972. And there have been some revisions since then. So he's saying, get up and fight, conquer your enemies. Did we read the purport here? No, I didn't. Oh, I don't think I did. Savyasachin refers to one who can shoot arrows very expertly. Did I read all that? Yeah. I read that. Okay. Dronam to Bhishma. We also read the next one. So he's the main one Arjuna was afraid to kill was two, especially Bhishma, who had taken them in. You know, the Pandavas were orphans. They were young boys, and Pandu died untimely. And of course Kunti was there, but they, you know, needed. So Bhishma, who was highly respected, a great warrior, he helped in the role of a grandfather. He had no children of his own. So that's why. And then Drona, who was Dronacharya, who was his teacher of martial arts. So he mentions those first. Jayadratha also was a great warrior. You know, some of these, Kṛṣṇa they didn't know he was a brother also, but a great warrior. But all of these great warriors, he says, I've already killed them. In other words, you've seen, you know, they're not going to leave this battlefield. So there's no point in your not fighting. You should fight to your best, and in this way you'll be doing my will, and you'll get the kingdom, and everything will be right. So the idea that Krishna has his plan. Now, our little job also is to find out what, you know, we can do for Krishna. Just reading his book is great service. They should know that. That's the first service, Shravanam. And then Kirtanam. And then if you can repeat it, if you can, you know, even just reading together. We used to read, you know, Prabhupada's books together and talk about them, and then they still do that. I think every reading so often. So that's the first service, because you're getting purified, and your will is changing. You're you know, becoming purified. Huh? Brain, yeah. Prabhupada said the brains need to be washed. What's wrong with that? Brainwashing. Anyway, it's getting late. We'll resume on Monday, but before we do, another little poem for you. I always save something. So we're going to start on 35. Okay. All right, let me mark this up. This will be. Okay. So, let's see. Okay, so here's a verse that was taught to me by Mahavishnu Maharaj, the elder, who there's two Mahavishnu Maharajas. He used to spend a lot of time here, and but we were both in Vrindavan at the time when I was on the line waiting for prasadam, and I would ask, as I often did at the time, would you like to hear a nice shloka? You know, he said, yeah, and he pulled out a little pad to take notes. You know, no one ever did that before. You know, so I forget what verse I gave him, but he gave me a verse, and then it was a heavy-duty verse, and from the Padma Purana, and then I put it into a little poem. So here's the Sanskrit: Dehishtimang sududidebe matam cha jasva jaya sutaricha sadama matam vimuncha pushyani sham jagadidam cha nabhangatishtam vairagya raga rasiko bhavabhakti nishtam. Don't love the body, just a bag of flesh and blood and bone. Give up your sense of ownership for wife and kids and home. At every moment, see that this world totters on destruction. Become detached and learn to love the Lord without obstruction. And whenever I give that poem, I have to apologize for the last line, which I really didn't do justice to. The phrase is Vairagya Raga. It's a wonderful play on words. Vairagya means detachment, you know, from the things of this world. That's an important thing. We want to transfer our attachment to the devotees, to the pure devotees, and ultimately to Krishna. So that's our bondage here, is all these attachments, subtle and gross. So Vairagya, Raga. So, but you can become attached, Raga, to detachment. You see? In other words, by becoming a rasika. A rasika means someone who can taste the nectar of Krishna consciousness. And so much of it is just getting a taste for chanting Hare Krishna. If you really pay attention, you become absorbed in the sound, and you chant with sincerity, calling out to Krishna, please engage me in your service. Or you can pray to the holy name through the holy name. Pray for more attachment for the holy name, you know? And there's so many verses like that. Here's another one. I don't think I have a poem for it, but he says, Narada vino jivana sadomini yasamarari pura tvam Krishna nama kamam spadame vasane vasena sada. This is Rupa Goswami. Last verse of the Namashtaka. So he says, oh, this holy name, oh Krishna, you are the inspiration for the vina of Narada Muni. Narada vino jivana, the life and soul. Sudormi niryasa marari pura. You're like a flood of the sweetest nectar flowing, you know. Pura. Tvam Krishna nama, if you please, O holy name, please increase my taste for you more and more, and always appear on my tongue with great relish. So you're praying to the holy name to get taste. And we should remember, Krishna is non-different from his holy name. This is the most miraculous thing. That if you chant, even if you don't know about it, but you should know the reason why it is so potency, because it's Krishna in sound. And he's so powerful, he purifies and he attracts himself to you, and he makes your life successful. So there it is, our Wednesday version. You're all welcome for Monday, or whenever you can come again. And don't miss Wednesday. If you come in 1 week, it's Radhashtami. It's Radharani's appearance day, and it's the sweetest festival of the year. And I'm going to that poem that I gave the first one of, I'll do the whole thing with a slideshow. Huh? 5:30. 5:30, yeah. And try to come next Wednesday. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol.